Good morning, guys. Before I get started on the video, I just want to give you a little update. The young girl that I featured last week, Chelsea Adram, I have been trying to find her poster again, and it's been taken down. Usually, if they're found or the case is resolved, that is when they get taken down. And someone that was her classmate posted a comment that it was sad what happened to her. So with that, I'm gotta guess that she was not found alive. Now, we still need to keep looking for these kids and do what we can to bring them home, preferably alive. But either way, if they can't be brought home alive, then get justice for them. And remember, if you know anything about what happened to her or the other kids I've featured here, please speak up. Have some courage, have some balls, and speak up. Because you never know, it could be your child that goes missing. Now, moving on to what I'm going to talk about today. I've debated long and hard about how much of my life with a veteran to share. There are some things that I had not even shared with my daughter, that she knows nothing about, really. Alright, first let's talk about the medical system, the VA. From as long as I can remember, my father would have to fight, bite, scream, bitch, yell, and kick to get just an appointment for anything. And then getting quality service. That's a whole other bag of potatoes, for sure. So, once he would get there, it would be like an all-day event. Really, it would be. I remember one instance when my dad worked at Emerson Electric. They built the motors for Whirlpool, GE, Kenmore, all the motors for the washers and dryers and refrigerators. Now, one day, he was walking across the parking lot, and one of the screws in his left leg, because remember, my dad lost from below the knee down on his left leg. So he had to have a artificial limb to walk with. And one evening, going into work, one of the screws in the ankle broke. Well, he went in and told one of his bosses about it and let him know that he would work today, but he was going to have the next day off to go down to Little Rock and get it fixed. I remember he told me that his boss had this look on his face of utter confusion until my dad explained to him. And then he understood. He said, fine. And they went back, worked like normal, like there was nothing different, nothing strange at all going on. So, the next day he had to go down to Little Rock, Arkansas, because that's where the closest VA clinic was. He didn't know about the one in Poplar Bluff until years later. He joined a bunch of these groups for veterans that helps them find resources needed when they need them. Anyway, they say he got that fixed. Then he was to work the next day. His boss still looked a little confused, because this was just, this was right after post-Vietnam conflict. So you got, which is going to bring me to my next part of this. Employment. Finding employment for Vietnam vets was like pulling teeth out of a bear. It really was. I My dad was from Michigan. He grew up in the Romulus area, which is just outside of Detroit. Um, there was a Hoover plant in Detroit. He went to try to apply for a job. There was a bunch of empty seats. And the main guy told him, "We don't hire Vietnam vets." Can you imagine that happening now? Suppose say we don't hire Iraqi vets or Afghanistan vets. I mean, come on. They would be inundated with lawyers over it. Well, you know, back to the 70s was a different time. We didn't have the whole affirmation thing. Well, that's why we're black. So, anyway, bottom line is, today they would never ever reject someone because they were a veteran. There's no way. I can remember, when kids first opened their cafe, the first one, and Gene made it very clear, veterans come first. They would be the first to be hired. I told my dad about that and he was happy to know it. Because it was like, somebody was giving veterans one thing they need most, a chance to work. So they bounced back and forth from Michigan to New York, where my mom was from, upstate New York, up in Syracuse. And the Canadian border there, Thousand Islands, beautiful, beautiful place. There twice. Okay. Then finally, they went down to Arkansas, where I grew up. Keep in mind, I was born in Farmington. I don't know if it's Farmington Hills. I just know it's Farmington. They had to get food stamps for a while, and Section 8 until my dad could find work. Eventually, he did find work. He did find somebody that would give him a chance to work for a living. In addition to what he got as a pension from the military. Because he did give over 20 years of his life. He was one of the first Green Berets. And he was always the first one to volunteer for a job. It didn't matter how big, how small, or how risky. He would step up to the plate. There's lots of now like that he would be happy to see. But I don't think he would like the fact that not a damn thing has changed from when he was young. Nowadays they get, some business will give veterans, first option to a job. Some places won't. I don't know why not, but whatever. Anyway, living with a veteran is not easy. Not all of them are like Tana Mojo's dad. That's just straight out nuts. Ride a bike, carry a chicken, and thank God for milk. Okay, she's talked about that story before. I've seen that video, and I completely identify with her. How odd it is to see this happen, but it is what it is. She also talked about how her dad kept the house dark. The curtains were always pulled. The TVs were down. That's so, if in their minds, if somebody tries to attack them, they can see it. They're going to hear it. And that person's not going to see in. That's what that's about. Camouflage. What it's really about. You see, my dad wasn't like that. He worked from 3 in the afternoon until midnight. get home, go to bed somewhere about 2, because these were the hours they did most of the fighting in Vietnam. It was usually in the late afternoon until early morning is when they would do most of the fighting. Um, and during the winter, it was the hardest for them. Then when I was about 15, my dad got to the point where he could no longer walk on the cement floors and everything because it just tore him up. He would work 5 days a week and he would need 2 to rest. I mean, really rest. It's nobody bugging. Just let him sleep whenever he can. Leave him alone, you know. Now, around about 15, like I said, he was forced to go 100% retirement because he could not work anymore. It just tore him up. And he did not like the prospect of an office job. My father's original plan was survive the Vietnam conflict, hole in hell, and then go into CIA Black Ops. That was his plan. And don't tell me, do not comment, hey, get ready to comment. You're full of shit if you don't think there is a CIA Black Ops. Because there is. Do you really think we're paying $300 for a hammer, $500 for a toilet seat? Really, people? No. Apparently it wasn't meant to happen. Because he wasn't able to get a job in there. There's one retirement policy. The grave. That's it. You don't retire from this section until you die. That's really all I care to speak about that part. Let's get back to living with him. During the winter would be the hardest. Those were the months we couldn't get out really and do anything. Because northeast corner of Arkansas, we didn't have Michigan, what the winters like they have here in Michigan. There were still times when it was so cold you couldn't get out. You could physically get out, but it was so cold you didn't want to. There were times when he would be so haunted by the faces of the children that he came across during his time serving. And he would literally cry. He would sit in his chair and cry for hours. Because what he was forced to do was the unthinkable. These governments have used children as suicide bombers. They did it in Vietnam, and they do it now. Nothing's changed. Just the politicians changed. But he would cry for hours thinking about him. He would have a handkerchief tied around his neck. He carried a gun around. Not that he would consciously injure my mom and me, because he'd already lost one family. He didn't want to lose another one. And he was so haunted. And he would consider suicide. And there were times I would be walking home, I'd be just filled with anxiety. Because I didn't know what I was walking into. Until I got to that door, to the house. And you'd be like, okay, no police tag, good. and then Friday would roll around. Yes, I could sleep in, but it comes the anxiety of, will you see another sunset? Because of a PTSD filled rage or state of mind. That was my life. And I have no doubt there are still families going through this to this day. They are told they have support. They were told they would have it, but they don't. Why do you think so many veterans call these suicide prevention helplines? They don't get help, but they end up taking their own lives. So I guess in a way they got help. I mean, at least they don't have to deal with it anymore. But then they leave behind families that are forced to deal with why. Why couldn't that VA suicide hotline operator not take their call, but wait 2 days and after they commit suicide to call back? Why did that operator wait 24 hours and after this veteran that was in a PTSD state? Because I'm telling you, they go back to where they were. They go back to the battlefield. And they're there. And their brothers in arms are not there. You get what I'm saying here? 9 times out of 10 when a veteran kills their wife and their kids, it's not because they wanted to, it's because they were in a flashback that took them back to a battle. And everybody was combatants. Everyone was fair game. Alright. I hadn't planned on talking about that, really. But it's out there. Honestly, I want to give people an idea of what the families live with, what the veterans live with, why things like this happen. It's not because the veteran, the person that served, just flipped out and hated everybody. It's because they got their mind went back to a battle. There was a gun there. And when they come to, everyone's dead. Except for them. They look around, realize what they've done, and then they take their own lives. Of course, next day or so later, the VA suicide hotline prevention calls. But it's too late. It's too late. I'm sharing this because I know this has happened. I never knew if it was going to happen to us or not. There were times I didn't know if I was even going to see sunrise. There would be times when the tension would be so bad that I would consider putting a razor across my wrist because being dead was a hell of a lot better than that. Living with that stress, not knowing. So, before you sign up to serve, watch this video and then decide, do you want this for your life? This psychological hell for the rest of your life. Even after they're done with you and you are no longer used to it because either you're dead or you've lost one or both legs or one or both arms or possibly all 4 limbs. You need to stop and think. look around, and then do I really want to be turned into a killing machine for a government that doesn't give a shit about the people? I will see you tomorrow. Oh, hit the wrong button. See you tomorrow. We'll talk about Book of Enoch, chapter, Book of Noah. Sorry, talk about Noah.